Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me here today. Hope you enjoyed the weekend. Hope all of you were able to spend some quality time with your loved ones safely. As we move further along into June and into phase 2 of restoring safe services, I encourage Manitobans to continue to stick to the fundamentals that got us here, that got us the recovery to date that we have enjoyed. And it is because of your efforts that we've been able to arrive at this place. So I encourage you to keep up the good work and stay vigilant. I'm proud to say that our government has developed some of the most generous support programs in the country to help Manitobans navigate and, more importantly, bounce back from this global pandemic. Je suis fier de dire que notre gouvernement a mis en place certains des programmes de soutien les plus généreux au pays pour aider les Manitobains à naviguer et surtout à se remettre de cette pandémie mondiale. Over 5,000 Manitoba small businesses are now receiving their funding of $6,000 each through the Manitoba GAP program. That represents nearly $33 million to small businesses so far as they look to reopen on the road to recovery. Just to give you an idea of the uptake on that program, there were 258 additional applications yesterday alone. Through the Summer Student Recovery Program, we've already been making good progress as well. Over 1,100 employers have applied for a wage subsidy for over 2,500 student positions. That is $13 million in financial support for Manitoba youth and our private sector. Our Green Team initiative has seen incredible uptake since we announced the doubling of provincial dollars last month for that program. We are on track to provide $10 million in financial assistance. We already have $9.4 million applied for under that program. That represents support to almost 700 organizations and over 2,600 jobs for young Manitobans. Over 5,000 students have registered on our Student Jobs Manitoba online matching tool, and I encourage any young people out there who have not done so to do so. That is thousands of students ready to work and be part of our recovery efforts. The Manitoba Economic Support Centre, by the way, has spoken to well over 100,000 businesses, not-for-profits, charities, other community groups, to let them know about these programs that we're offering. And we are encouraging Manitobans to continue as we venture onto this road of recovery together, to use these support programs to assist you in any way that we can. As we continue to ease restrictions and reopen businesses, we're constantly evaluating our programs and identifying needs for greater support and partnership to help as many Manitobans bounce back from this unprecedented challenge as possible. Alors que nous continuons de supprimer les restrictions et de rouvrir les entreprises, nous évaluons constamment nos programmes et identifions le besoin d'un soutien et d'un partenariat accru pour aider le plus grand nombre de Manitobains à se remettre de cette période sans précédent. On Friday, our government hosted a telephone town hall, and I want to say a thank you to the over 350 charities and nonprofits from all around the province who participated, and we discussed the challenges they're facing and their willingness to be part of our province's resurgence. We appreciate what you do. We are listening, and we are acting. And so today I am proud to announce that we are building on the success of the Manitoba Summer Student Recovery Program and the Manitoba GAP program to provide better support for charities and nonprofits in our province to help them get back up and running, to build up their workforce, and to join in our province's recovery efforts. Under the Summer Student Recovery Program, nonprofits and charities are eligible for up to $25,000 of support to hire 5 summer students, and we encourage them to apply, and we are ready to do more as well. Today, I am pleased to announce the Nonprofit Summer Student Incentive Program. Charities and nonprofit organizations will be eligible to receive $6,000 additional in financial assistance if they have hired at least one summer student under our summer student wage subsidy program. Accessing this new program will be simple. It will be quick. The online portal will be live on Tuesday, June 16th. Nonprofits and charities just have to show evidence of a summer student being hired, and payment will be processed very soon thereafter. The first $3,000 will be paid on confirmation of the first student being employed. The remaining $3,000 will be paid at the end of the summer employment. So again, 50% wage subsidy support under our summer student subsidy program for up to 5 students. That would be to a maximum of $5,000 per student, so that's $25,000 available. This is the same as is available to small businesses. But in addition, $6,000 once you provide evidence that you have hired and retained just one summer student. You'll be eligible for that. Payment will be, again, $3,000 on confirmation of your hire, and an additional $3,000 paid at the end of the summer employment as well. That altogether amounts to a support of over $30,000 for our charities and for our nonprofits. Now, thousands of Manitoba students are ready, willing, and eager to get to work, and Manitoba small businesses are eager and excited to reopen and expand the services that they offer too, safely. We'll continue to consult with the private sector, with industry, with labor, with nonprofit organizations as we move towards recovery together. The key to this turnaround is going to be a strong economic recovery, and Manitobans will get there by sticking to the fundamentals, not only to save lives, but also to allow Manitobans to get their lives back, to get back to work. La clé de ce redressement sera une forte reprise économique, et les Manitobains y parviendront en respectant les principes fondamentaux, non seulement pour sauver des vies, mais pour permettre à tous les Manitobains de retrouver leur vie aussi. Together we'll beat this thing. Thank you. I look forward to taking your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. A reminder to our reporters online, you will have one preliminary question and one follow-up question. Up first this afternoon from the Winnipeg Free Press, Carol.
Hello, Premier. It's Carol Sanders of the Free Press. I'm wondering what's happening with the $14 billion in federal transfers for the Safe Restart Agreement. That's with the 10 days of paid sick leave for workers. How and when might you roll that out in Manitoba?
You're referring to the Prime Minister's commitment to support provinces in respect of the variety of listed programs, I think, that he mentioned last week in a press release. I expect that we're going to have further discussion on that among the premiers and with the Prime Minister later this week. I would make 2 points in respect of the proposal. One, none of this should distract from the larger issue of getting the federal government to sit down at the table with the premiers to discuss sustainable support for healthcare funding. That funding was at 50%, dropped to 25%, and is now in many provinces below 20%. So that is key. The second thing would be flexibility in terms of the ability to use these funds. Not every province is at the same place in its recovery, so certainly for us, this is a big issue because where we're not in the position of Quebec, say, or Ontario in respect of fighting COVID, we're having some success, and now we're in economic recovery mode. We'd like to have flexibility to invest these funds in ways that get best results for Manitobans.
Okay. And you're known for wanting the public to get the most bang for its buck. I'm wondering, do you see any benefits in spending less on police services and more on social and mental health services?
Well, I think the major issue is what we need to look at here, and obviously in response to the tragic murder of a black man in Minneapolis recently. There's been an outcry that's been simmering for some time and on various fronts about ending racism. I think that's a cause well worth standing up for. As far as how we get best public safety, that's an issue that requires research, diligence, and dialogue. And so we'll continue to have that dialogue. As a government, we have really focused on investing greater sums than ever before in preventative measures, cooperative preventative measures, because that's how we see the long-term direction being improved for our province, helping people stay away from a life of crime rather than just throwing more money at the problem itself.
From Global, Brittany.
Good afternoon, Mr. Premier. Brittany from Global News. We started reopening the province. We started allowing some visits at hospitals. One of the big things that a lot of people are asking us about is that interprovincial travel restriction or the self-isolation that Manitoba still has when provinces to the west of us aren't having it. Is this something that we could possibly be seeing lifted here soon?
Yeah, Brittany, it's a good point. And I think the key point that I would make is that whatever progress we've made to date in Manitoba has been to the credit of Manitobans and because of Manitobans being willing to follow public health orders and to be very respectful not only of protecting themselves but protecting others. And so any talk about further loosening of restrictions should be preceded by that understanding that the only way that we're going to be able to continue on the road to recovery is if all of us are doing the right things that we've been doing to get us this far. So I would say those things are on the table. I'll have more to say on that probably next week. In addition, I would say, as we always have, we'll endeavor to get a draft plan out to Manitobans, and I know that the media will be very helpful to us in getting that message out to people. We had thousands of really, really good and interesting submissions and ideas on our draft plan for Stage 2, Phase 2, and I expect we'll use that same process going forward for Phase 3. But I would emphasize again that any progress we make will be only due to the willingness of Manitobans to follow the doctor's orders, to follow the advice, and to make sure that we're very, very serious about ensuring that there's no COVID comeback here in Manitoba. Instead, there's going to be a Manitoba comeback.
Thank you. And I know you work in consultation and collaboration with Dr. Rusin when you are looking at all of these draft plans. Is that something that is being looked at to possibly happen still in Phase 2, that we could see some of this interprovincial restriction lifted, even possibly to just provinces to the west of us or provinces that have similar epidemiology to us here?
Well, let's face it, we've got to monitor our positivity results on testing. We've got to monitor our case numbers as well. And we've got to monitor the impacts that recent lifting of restrictions in our neighboring jurisdictions has had as well on those very statistics. Because once we open the borders, we would like to make that something that is long-lasting and not temporary. And so that means making sure that we're not putting Manitobans at risk as a consequence of doing so. And that means making sure we're monitoring the progress being made not just here in Manitoba, but around the country and around the world as well.
From the Brandon Sun, Bud.
Yes, Premier Bud Robertson, the Brandon Sun. As you know, the pandemic has shone a negative light on personal care homes outside of Manitoba, but also in Manitoba. And I've heard angry comments, frustration about conditions in many personal care homes. I know you've received letters. Will this prompt the province to investigate further now or down the road?
Well, as you know, Bud, we have stepped up our inspection processes. I know that the Minister of Health is also looking at how we can improve the transparency on releasing inspection, the results of inspections and other things so that the public can be made aware, and I think that's a positive step. And in addition, I would say, without running a victory lap, that Manitoba residents of our care homes and Manitoba families and friends of those who make their homes there have been very, very well served by the success we've enjoyed as a consequence of early intervention, early steps to protect the safety and well-being of those who live in these care homes and those who work there as well. So we'll continue to take these very seriously as we move forward.
Okay. And just to follow up, going back to the original announcement for summer students, and generally summer students are exactly that, summer students. But with this, I imagine some students won't be able to go back to work. Will this program be carried on beyond September, or is that in your minds at all?
Yeah, Bud, we're actually, excuse me, we're actually, sorry about that. I was so excited to answer your question, I got all choked up there. We're looking at a number of other initiatives to help people get back to work, whether it's temporary work that's needed or it's longer term work, because we really think this is part of the key, right? But I will emphasize again, and I'll have more to say on that in the not too distant future, but I would emphasize again, any progress we make rests on the foundation of protecting public health. COVID is still here. And I see too many examples where people are acting as if it isn't, or acting already as if they're immune. I get that we're all frustrated with the lack of personal freedoms or the sacrifices that we've had to make. But some of those sacrifices you've made have saved lives. Most certainly they have saved the lives of Manitobans. And so I, again, say to every Manitoban, we can only make progress if you continue to apply the fundamentals of not going to work with symptoms and sick, washing your hands on a regular basis, making sure that you do the right things when it comes to social distancing. And continuing to do those things will be the best way for us to continue on the road to recovery and to make sure that we help those who are unemployed right now, which is a record number, by the way, to get their jobs back and get their lives back.
From CJOB, Diana.
Good afternoon, Mr. Premier. Diana from 680 CJOB. Will Manitoba offer rent assistance to small businesses, kind of like Ontario has done in partnership with the feds under the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program? Do you have anything like that planned?
We already have signed on to that program, Diana, but the details are still being ironed out at the federal end. There's some confusion, I think. Some of the landlord reluctance as a consequence of the design of the program is I think, slowing the sign-ups, and the participation is lower than I think the federal government or our government would like to see. But again, we'll have more to say on that issue as well. We're looking at some ways in which we can actually strengthen the arrangements and the certainty so that tenants are given a little bit more security going forward, because it is important as we rebuild our economy that our small business community gets the supports it needs.
Thank you. And then with respect to today's announcement, if a nonprofit organization has received funding under the Canada Summer Jobs Program, is it also eligible to apply for the summer student wage subsidy under the province's new program, or are you not allowing any kind of crossover like that?
In this case, we're allowing as many people as possible to sign up for this program. We really believe that it's important that we get these thousands of young people, young Manitobans, need the chance to get to work. And look, I'm going to be blunt here at the risk, and I don't want to sound, I don't want this to be taken by the media. I hope it wouldn't be taken as criticism of the federal government. I'm just saying work beats living on subsidies. And we need to give our people in Manitoba a chance to have a way to work. And the federal programs were designed to help, originally designed to help people who couldn't find work, but they weren't designed to help people who could not go to work. And that we hear, and the Prime Minister's expressed concerns about this. We're hearing from small businesses. Employers are phoning their workers to come back. They're not coming back because they're happy with the CERB. The program is making hiring more difficult. What we've done with our programs is tried to make hiring easier. And we are thoughtfully designing our programs to help people find work. We're encouraging people to go back to work safely. That's what our province is focused on. I know that that's what Manitobans want to support going forward. They want to see people have the chance to get back to work. And as much as these subsidies may have been needed in the short term for a decreasing number of people, thank goodness, in Manitoba at least, and in other provinces too, These are programs that are not needed now. What is needed is for people to get back to work safely.
From the Winnipeg Sun, Scott.
Hello, Premier Scott Billick from the Winnipeg Sun. Just to, I guess, piggyback off that question, but how do you, I mean, if I go back to when I was 18, I mean, I'd imagine I would have sat and taken the, you know, the $2,000 and kind of ran with it and had my summer. How do you get that message across to, you know, students, anybody that wants to go back to work, who can, you know, can sit at home all summer, enjoy their summer, and still, you know, make it a reasonable enough living that they don't have to go back to work during a global pandemic?
Yeah, it's a great point, Scott. I guess there's two things. I mean, it isn't just the money, though the money, you can make more money working than you can off that subsidy. So that's one. The second thing is it isn't just the money, it's what you get in terms of knowledge and experience from the work. And for young people, sitting on a couch binge watching Netflix isn't going to get you many jobs going forward. But if you can get some valuable experience during the summer at a job, that's really useful. So that's something you can use to propel yourself forward. And I think most young people understand that, but I want more young people to understand it. We've got over 5,000 young people who have registered on our, we announced our website, our matching service last week or a few days ago, and the response has been really good. But I would like that response to be even higher, because I think with our announcement today, you're going to see a lot of nonprofits and charities looking to add some people, and we're going to be able to create even more opportunities, job opportunities that I think Manitoba young people will really appreciate having.
Thank you for that. And just want to follow up. There's a petition out there with 30,000 signatures calling for calling to abolish the Winnipeg Police Service. I don't think you've said anything on that yet. What is your thought on abolishing the Winnipeg Police Service?
Well, I think maybe there's two different things. I think that the motivation and the motivation that lies in the frustration of the actions of some police services, not here necessarily here in Winnipeg exclusively, but elsewhere, is justifiable and understandable, and I get it. But then moving to defunding police is, to me, an illogical step from that one. Don't let your frustration lose your common sense. There's a lot of people out there in vulnerable communities who depend on the police to protect them and make sure they're safe from the actions of criminals, and you start defunding the police, you're starting to make them even more vulnerable. So I don't think that that's necessarily an action that we can support. I'm not supportive of reducing efforts to improve public safety in our province. That's why we're investing as a government very significantly, not just in police, direct police costs, but in, as I said earlier, the preventative kinds of programs that we think can really help. Just for example, over almost $30 million we've invested in 17 different initiatives as a government just since last October on just the issues around addictions and mental health. So we're focused on addressing the causes of crime to reduce that likelihood, but we need the police because crime is real and the actions of criminals have to be addressed, and our police do a tremendously important job.
From CBC Radio Canada, Gavin.
Bonjour, Premier Pallister. Gavin Boutefort from Radio Canada here. In April, there was talk of clawing back funding for nonprofits funded by the provincial government. Could you tell us if that actually happened?
Well, I'm not in the habit of responding to media-fueled rumors, so I can't really do that. I think we're proving today that our support for nonprofits is real. Our encouragement for charities and nonprofits continues, and we continue to maintain significant investments added to with today's announcement.
As a follow-up, what I'm hearing from nonprofits is that they'd really like stable, predictable funding. Why offer a sort of temporary program like this or hiring students rather than opting for a more permanent funding structure for nonprofits?
Well, at the risk of not sounding charitable to charities, we'd all like predictable funding of an assured level. This is a pandemic. It's a global pandemic. The revenues of the government are deteriorated. These are investments we're making that are going to be made by borrowing on our future and that of our children and grandchildren. We're acting charitably to ask the help of charities at this point because we have a record number of young people who need work. This is a pandemic response program, and as far as overarching desires for stable funding, we all have those. We all desire those. I just referenced earlier my desire to see our federal government partner with us on stable and predictable growth in funding to address health care. I understand that. But the program I'm announcing today is designed by our government to serve the needs of getting young people the opportunity to work, which is paramount at this time in Manitoba's history.
From CBC Manitoba, Ian.
Good afternoon, Ian Frey, CBC. Your government had planned to release a review of the Police Services Act in this spring. That hasn't happened yet. Has there been a delay in releasing that review, and when do you expect that review to go out?
Sorry, Ian, you clicked out on me, and I don't know which act you were referring to. If you could just repeat that, I'm happy to answer your question.
Sure thing. The Police Services Act.
Right. So the Justice Minister has had, like many of our ministers, a pretty full plate of initiatives that they're dealing with as a consequence of the pandemic. I'll let Cliff Cullen give you an update on the progress on his work in that respect, rather than me trying to do so inadequately.
And also, you were just speaking earlier about police funding. You did say, there's time now for dialogue and discussion. If you don't think that police should be, defunded, what other measures would you say are necessary to improve policing?
Well, we've taken a number of those measures, but I would say that the responsibility for the Winnipeg Police Service lies with the Mayor and Council, and I respect the partnership that we are developing with the Mayor and Council, so I will let them respectfully, I'll let them make comment as far as how they may see better allocations of funds within the Winnipeg Police Service or away from the Winnipeg Police Service. I've heard some reference by some councillors to a desire to defund the police. I'm not sure how broadly that is supported at the Executive Policy Committee level or by the Mayor. I'll let them address city issues.
From the Canadian Press, Steve.
Steve Lambert from the Canadian Press. Premier, you mentioned the gap funding is up to $33 million. It's still very well far below the maximum allotted. Are you looking at expanding that, and if so, in what way?
Well, first of all, I'd emphasize, Steve, that like most government programs, it's a scheduled allocation of funds out of a budgeted amount, not an immediate. So we're on track, I believe, from our best projections to meet the needs that we projected the GAP program could fulfill in the short term. But we're also keeping an eye on what the federal government's going to do, because we've tried to offer supports that complement their programs. And I hear that Finance Minister Morneau is considering making some changes to his programs. And so I guess this long explanation is to say, we'll adapt our programs to accommodate the needs of Manitobans first, but also to accommodate the need to fill gaps left by whatever federal changes to their programs may occur as they unfold over time. And I'll be blunt here again as well and simply say, there are two major programs, several programs, but the two major ones. The wage subsidy program, which is designed to encourage people, small businesses, to hire people back, which we think is a really good program, and we've encouraged support for that program. I would encourage the federal government to continue that program. But then there's the CERB program, which is the $2,000 per month paid to people who can't find work. Initially, that program was well received. Now we're finding that it's actually interfering with people getting rehired or going back to work. It's been pointed out by the Prime Minister himself. It's been pointed out by business groups. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business nationally and provincially has pointed it out. Numerous comments have come to us through our consultations about concerns about that program. So my advice last week to the Prime Minister, and again this week, along with the advice he's received from several other premiers, is if you're going to phase out a program, don't phase out the wage support program for business, small business. Look at doing something to stop encouraging people from not getting back into the workforce. And the CERB program does that to some degree. There are people who it was designed to help. some of those people now have the chance to go back to work. That isn't what the program's intent was when the federal government introduced it.
And a question on Stuart Burn, local state of emergency out there, some people evacuating their homes, roads, and a lot of land flooded. What is the province doing, and is there going to be some EMO help out there?
Yeah, I'll let the appropriate minister give you a more detailed response. We're obviously thinking of those folks right now. It's we've had some pretty insistent rain in a couple of parts of the province, and we're keeping an eye on that. But the minister will have more detail to share with you, Steve, on that issue. Our thoughts are with those folks in that area for sure.
From CTV Winnipeg, Jeremy.
My questions have actually been answered already, so I'll pass for now. Thank you.
For that, and thanks to everyone. We'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow about a very exciting announcement as well. Talk to you soon. We'll beat this thing together.